When a movie's main character makes a habit of breaking the fourth wall and talking directly to the audience, you know it'll have in-jokes and Easter eggs crammed into every orifice. Such is the case with Deadpool, the R-rated superhero action comedy set in 20th Century Fox's X-Men-focused corner of the Marvel Universe. Here's a list of some of the best Easter eggs that old Deadpool hid in his Hello Kitty backpack. Mild spoilers ahead. Credits where it's due. The movie opens up with hilarious title cards, setting the tone immediately. One gag comes in the form of a copy of People magazine's Sexiest Man Alive 2010 issue fluttering across the screen. That issue, of course, gave Deadpool star Ryan Reynolds top sexiness honors. Moments later in the opening credits sequence, we see a wallet flying through the air with a picture of Green Lantern popping out of it. As you probably know by now, Reynolds' career took a nasty hit in 2011 when his starring turn as the DC Comics character flopped at the box office, killing the franchise before it had the chance to take off. Ghosts of Deadpool's past. Deadpool features at least two amazing references to Reynolds' past as the character. In one scene, Wade picks up an action figure of Deadpool from 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine. A little later, the villainous Ajax says he wants to sew Wade's mouth shut. These are some pretty awesome and brazen shoutouts to what most fans consider one of the worst movie adaptations of a comic book character. Deadpool is known for his wisecracks and non-stop talking, but in that Wolverine movie, his friggin' mouth is sealed shut. More Green Lantern shade. When the bad guys in the workshop bring Wade in to give him superpowers, he yells out that he doesn't want his superhero suit to be green or animated. That's yet another dig at Green Lantern from 2011, which featured Reynolds wearing a CGI superhero costume that, well, looked like garbage. A Marrow victory. This is one of the few Easter eggs that isn't funny, but is definitely exciting for comic fans. For a brief moment in the workshop, the camera pans past a woman who seems to have a bunch of bones sticking out of her back. This has got to be an oblique reference to Marrow, a mutant whose power is that, she has a bunch of bones sticking out of her back, which she uses to stab people. So while Deadpool has a pretty tenuous connection to the X-Men franchise, seeing Marrow in this movie is still pretty cool. Proof is in the prof. When Colossus tries to drag Deadpool off to the X-Men's mansion, Wade offers up one of the best lines in the movie. Colossus says that they'll go to see how the professor feels about his freeway murder spree. At that, Deadpool says, "McAvoy or Stewart, these timelines are confusing." Of course, that's a reference to the fact that X-Men Days of Future Past gave the mutant franchise a soft reboot, allowing actor James McAvoy to take the role of Professor X from Patrick Stewart. The fact that Deadpool pokes direct fun at 20th Century Fox's crazy continuity shenanigans is yet another reason he's our hero. On the Blade's Edge. When Ajax and Angel Dust head to the bar to track down Wade, they run into his buddy Weasel, who makes fun of their outfits and asks if they're headed to watch Blade 2. While that's a solid burn in and of itself, the Blade franchise is actually another Marvel-based property, and yet another example of Deadpool breaking the fourth wall. Even better, Ryan Reynolds had a starring role in Blade Trinity as Marvel Comics character Hannibal King. Ryan Reynolds must really like comic books, you guys. Stan and Stripperella. It wouldn't be a Marvel movie without a cameo from Stan Lee, the comic book writing legend who's credited with co-creating the Marvel Universe as we know it. He hams it up as the DJ in the strip club where Deadpool and Weasel go to find Vanessa. While Stan Lee's connection to the Deadpool character is about as thin as it gets, his connection to strippers is actually worth mentioning. In 2003, he created a pretty lousy animated show called Stripperella starring Pamela Anderson, which aired on Spike TV for 1 year before getting axed. Budget cuts? Shortly before Deadpool opened in theaters, one of the film's screenwriters, Rhett Reese, revealed in an interview that the filmmakers had 48 hours to cut over $7 million from its budget before 20th Century Fox would give it the green light. Fast forward to the scene in the movie where Deadpool heads to the X-Men mansion to get the help of Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead to rescue Vanessa. There, he mentions how it's strange that he only ever sees the two of them, almost as if there wasn't enough budget to get any more X-Men characters to appear. Bob! While he's cutting up Ajax's goons before the final showdown, Deadpool runs into his old buddy Bob from his Special Forces days. Fans of the character know that, for a while, a Hydra flunky named Bob joined Deadpool on lots of his comic book adventures. While Fox can't refer to Hydra, since the rights to those characters live with Marvel Studios, the character's appearance is still a nice nod to true comic diehards. Rhymes with Wolverine. There are so many references to Wolverine in this movie, probably because of the aforementioned X-Men Origins connection. We've got Deadpool telling the audience that the movie got made because he provided oral relief to someone whose name rhymes with Wolverine. Later, in Deadpool's duffel bag of guns, there's a copy of the People magazine issue from 2008 that declared Hugh Jackman as the sexiest man alive. Then there's the bit at the end of the movie where Vanessa pulls off Deadpool's mask, under which she finds a magazine cutout of Hugh Jackman's face stapled to Wade's. Special thanks, with tongue. Towards the end of the credits, the movie offers us special thanks, with tongue, to Rob Liefeld and Fabian Nicieza, the original creators of the Deadpool character. Considering how Liefeld and Nicieza's creation has taken over the pop culture world, they're probably more than happy to accept that extra special thanks, tongue and all.
True to the spirit of everyone's favorite regenerating degenerate, Deadpool 2 doesn't hold back on the violence, profanity, and fourth wall breaks, taking everything great about the first movie and turning it up to 11. In that vein, Deadpool 2 also introduced a ton of new characters, and then, well, let's just say there are plenty of spoilers ahead. Some of these new characters carry a lot of weight in the comics, and a few have even saved the world once or twice. Let's take a look at all the characters in Deadpool 2 who mean more than you realized. Zeitgeist. A lot of hype was given to all the new mutants debuting in Deadpool 2. Then the movie came out and dispatched them all in horrible ways before they even got to their first mission, which is a shame because some of those characters have insane stories in the comics. Take Zeitgeist, played in the film by Bill Skarsgård. Once upon a time, he was actually the leader of one incarnation of the X-Force, and boy, were they weird. After 115 generally solid issues of X-Force, the series took a bizarre left turn. As issue number 116 opens, a drunk 14-year-old vomits acid all over a girl's face when he tries to kiss her. Flash forward in time, and he's Zeitgeist, the leader of a new X-Force. They all seem to be drunk most of the time, at least when they're not groping each other or doing drugs. Figuring the team needs a little good press, Zeitgeist hires a group of terrorists to kidnap a pop band called Boys R Us. X-Force teleports to the scene and obliterates all the bad guys, and then Zeitgeist and most of the team get cut to pieces and die. The end. Is it a weird chapter in X-Force's history books? Oh, you bet. But somehow, Zeitgeist feels exactly like the right type of person to add to a Deadpool movie. And technically, they followed his story pretty closely, all the way to the wood chipper end. Bedlam. Ever since his first introduction as Bedlam in the pages of X-Force number 82, Jesse Aronson has been one of the core members of the crime-fighting team. As a mutant with the ability to influence electronics through his own bioelectric field, Bedlam definitely played a pivotal role in several missions. And like he says in the movie, he really can directly affect people's brains, which came in handy when the citizens of San Francisco were turned into brainwashed zombies, and Bedlam was able to reverse the brainwashing without destroying them all. But once upon a time, Bedlam almost destroyed the planet. In X-Force number 87, Bedlam left the X-Force to join up with his long-lost brother Christopher on a team called the New Hellions. Bedlam later finds out that, in a series of jerk moves, Christopher had killed their parents 14 years earlier and was now planning to revive a mutant named Armageddon Man with the power to sweep the world with natural disasters. In other words, it was a bad family reunion. Realizing the error of his ways, Bedlam rejoins X-Force to put a stop to Armageddon Man, and they all learn a valuable lesson about friendship. Vanisher. You don't see a lot of Vanisher in Deadpool 2, which makes Brad Pitt's eventual cameo all the more shocking. The Vanisher of the comics is much different than the one we see, or rather don't see, in the movie. First gracing the pages of Uncanny X-Men number 2, the Vanisher was one of the OG X-Men foes, a teleporting mutant who liked to rob banks and steal government secrets. Decades later, Vanisher was still living a life of crime when X-Force tracked him down, gave him a brain tumor, and forced him to teleport them around to their battles, essentially turning him into their indentured slave. In a long career filled with dark moments, this was definitely one of the X-Force's darkest, and it proved that they were willing to go to any lengths to get a job done. No wonder Deadpool likes them so much. Black Tom Cassidy. Black Tom Cassidy's biggest contribution in Deadpool 2 is giving Deadpool an excuse to grief Cable over who he chooses to shoot, but in the comics, he has a much bigger role. Black Tom is a mutant infected with the same techno-organic virus that affects Cable. Just like in the movie, Black Tom was incarcerated at the same prison as Juggernaut, and he was also shot by Cable. Here's where the two paths diverge, however. In the comics, after Cable shoots him, Black Tom gets healed and gains the ability to control plants. Because why not? And also gains Deadpool's healing factor. That's exactly the kind of villain that could come back to haunt Deadpool, especially if another Deadpool movie takes up the recent Avengers theme of everything we do has consequences. But maybe without the plant thing, that might be too weird, even by Deadpool standards. Russell. Since Deadpool 2 basically served as the origin story for Russell Collins, aka Fire Fist, it made sure to hit some of the character's notes from the comics. Fire Fist's origin story saw him as a Navy recruit who suddenly discovers his fiery powers, gets locked up, and breaks free. X-Factor shows up to fight him, then lets him join the team. And then, in the events leading up to X-Force number 24, Russell is imprisoned by a mutant-hating group called the Friends of Humanity, leading the X-Force to mount a rescue operation while he's in transit. Pretty much what happened in Deadpool 2, but with fewer crotches landing on Cable's face. But his biggest contributions to X-Force have been, well, giving them something to fight. Not once, but twice has he been brainwashed and turned to the dark side in the comics, once for every finger he can give. We're not sure where his character will go in any upcoming films, but one thing's for sure, they sure picked a hell of a kid to rescue. Domino. When you break it right down, Domino has some of the most useful powers in the whole film, and she's used them plenty of times in the comics to get both Deadpool and Cable out of tight spots. She also gets one of the coolest sequences in the movie. When she wants to, she can even get the best of Deadpool with just a few well-timed words, which makes her one of the most formidable mutants on the team. Any future Deadpool film is bound to feature a ton of Domino showing off how powerful she really is. And despite what Deadpool may say about it, that's a pretty useful ability.
Yes, it is.
Let's meet in the middle and say no, it isn't.
Hope Summers. Leave it to Deadpool to introduce one of the most powerful mutants in the world and then end her brief story so tragically. We're talking about Hope Summers, of course, Cable's daughter, and the whole reason he traveled back in time in the first place. In the comics, Hope is what's known as an Omega-level mutant, basically just unstoppably powerful. After Cyclops becomes Dark Phoenix in Avengers vs. X-Men number 11, Hope harnesses the Phoenix Force to become an even more powerful Phoenix and stop him. And in Uncanny X-Men number 541, Hope absorbs all of the X-Men's powers to put a stop to an out-of-control Juggernaut. Where does it end? Well, in X-Men Legacy number 263, she admits that she's never seen the true limits of her powers. Now that Cable has successfully stopped her death, Hope Summers could have a big role to play in whatever on-screen form the X-Force takes next. Yukio and Shatterstar. In the film, Shatterstar is a sword-wielding mutant from Mojo World. In the comics, he's also a sword-wielding mutant from Mojo World, along with some extra weirdness that made him his own dad's father. But that's not where we're going here. After a long history in the comics, X-Factor number 45 had Shatterstar come out as gay and featured a panel of him and fellow male mutant Richter locking lips. The internet was quick to praise the writers of Deadpool 2 for featuring a gay superhero. But now that the movie is out and the only thing Shatterstar shattered were some helicopter blades, all the attention in that arena falls on Yukio, who is now in an on-screen relationship with Negasonic Teenage Warhead. While Marvel movies have technically featured LGBTQ characters before, Deadpool 2 puts that representation right in the forefront, but only after making everyone think that it was going to come from somewhere else. That's pure Deadpool.
Deadpool 2 was filled with twists and surprises, like the unexpected demise of the entire X-Force team. But maybe the biggest shock of all was the reveal of the biggest bad guy of them all, the Juggernaut. So how did Ryan Reynolds and company manage to keep Juggernaut a surprise for so long? And how exactly did they make Juggernaut at all? Here's a look at some surprising secrets the biggest fans may not know about Juggernaut in Deadpool 2. Top secret project. Deadpool 2 kept a lot of its biggest jokes a secret, like the unexpected cameos of superstars Brad Pitt and Matt Damon, and keeping spoilers off the internet was no easy task. As writer and executive producer Paul Wernick revealed in the special features on Deadpool 2's home release.
Sometimes the secrecy thing gets ridiculous. Our sides came in red because apparently you can't photocopy red, and then she shreds them. It's like working in the CIA sometimes.
But the biggest source of leaks turned out to be incredibly random, as Juggernaut's surprise appearance was almost spoiled by another surprise appearance. when legendary Guns N' Roses guitarist Slash turned up on set. Reynolds said it was a security nightmare.
Suddenly all these pictures of Slash were on people's phones with like Juggernaut in the background and like all this stuff. You're like, no guys, you can't post any of those, so, or at least Photoshop the crap out of them.
The Blob. Even though Juggernaut was created using CGI, the actors on the set still needed a reference to play off during filming. The solution? A giant padded dummy. It helped the actors nail their performances, but it also led to even more problems keeping the Juggernaut's appearance secret, as writer Rhett Reese explained.
And if you've seen the physical reference, it is definitely Juggernaut. It's like his outline, you can see the helmet, and then below him it's just this kind of amorphous blob.
The big problem? That signature helmet, which couldn't belong to anyone else.
But anyone who has any background in comics, if they were on set that day, would spy that particular getup and go, ha, Juggernaut's going to be in the movie.
The Man in the Iron Mask. Since an amorphous blob wouldn't have been particularly scary for audiences, no offense to fans of the Blob, the folks behind Deadpool decided to use CGI to animate Juggernaut. And when we say the folks behind Deadpool, we mean the role was actually played by the team of director David Leitch and Ryan Reynolds himself. Yep, it's true. Reynolds provided the voice and did the motion capture for the body, while Leitch did the motion capture for the Juggernaut's facial expressions. And the reason was simple. It was just more efficient to do it themselves rather than waste time bringing another actor up to speed on the role.
He's definitely a mashup of us, and that's really born out of the need to work efficiently. It's sort of a weird amalgamation.
These incredible teams of renderers are the guys that like bring it to life. That one took a village. That was all of us sort of jumping in. We all have a little piece of Juggernaut.
Black Bob. Juggernaut's appearance in the movie was also nearly revealed thanks to the casting of a completely different character, Jack Kesey as Black Tom Cassidy. In the comics, of course, Black Tom and Juggernaut are partners. So in order to keep the secret, Fox decided to use a different code name when making the casting announcement. Unfortunately, according to Wernick, that didn't quite work.
It was released that Jack was playing, I think it was Black Bob, which was a terrible idea to... they couldn't have come up with something else other than Black Blank, like, couldn't have been like Larry?
As it turns out, Black Tom barely even appeared in Deadpool 2, meaning this secret ultimately almost leaked on his behalf for no real reason. Whoops. The Irresistible Force. During the film's climax, Juggernaut was seemingly stopped for good when the good guys stuck an electrical cord into the wrong socket. Well, before you get too weepy for poor old Jugs though, take heart, as eagle-eyed fans notice that in the film's final scene, Juggernaut appears to be alive after all. So what does this mean for Juggernaut's future? Nobody knows for sure, but chances are we haven't seen the last of him. After all, it's pretty hard to stop a Juggernaut.
It's safe to say that Deadpool 2 has comfortably avoided sequelitis, with many standout moments even surpassing the first. Nevertheless, this hugely entertaining family film with a twist is not without a few small flaws. So buckle up and check the weather forecast, because we're jumping into gale force winds to present the 5 best and the 5 worst things in Deadpool 2. Spoilers ahead. Best, a perfect X-Force. First appearing in comic book form in 1991's New Mutants number 100, X-Force's feature film arrival has been eagerly anticipated since Cable was first teased in Deadpool's post-credits scene.
Oh, but I can tell you one thing, and it's a bit of a secret. For the sequel, we're gonna have Cable.
Fortunately, their arrival doesn't disappoint, with Cable, Domino, and Russell fitting into the team effortlessly. By the final act, when Deadpool's outfit is charred in a nod to his gray-suited X-Force appearance, it's clear Wade has found his F-word. Worst, no long-shot action. Deadpool 2's action definitely isn't bad, but fans of director David Leitch's previous projects, particularly his work on John Wick, may feel shortchanged. The reason could lie with Leitch's filming style. Both Keanu Reeves as John Wick and Charlize Theron in Atomic Blonde performed the majority of their own stunts. But that wasn't an option for much of Deadpool 2. Leitch told The Hollywood Reporter, "You need those actors to want to do it. Otherwise, you won't get those genuine characters on the screen." Reynolds, however, fractured vertebrae in his neck on the set of 2012's Safe House, and understandably, hasn't performed his own stunts since. Best, Domino's luck. As the sole survivor among the new recruits during the X-Force's inaugural mission, Domino clearly has what it takes. In the comics, Domino's superpower is subconscious telekinesis that kicks in when she's in high-stress situations. This force field manipulates her surroundings and is responsible for jamming the chambers of guns or manipulating mirrors to blind her enemies at just the right moment. The first time we really see her use those powers is a beautiful moment in Deadpool 2. Cars somersault and explosions erupt around her as she nonchalantly escapes harm. Like Final Destination in reverse, she defies odds in breathtaking fashion. Worst, an underutilized supporting cast. Most of the first movie's side characters returned for Deadpool 2, and they were joined by a ton of newcomers. The scope is larger, yet Deadpool 2 runs just 11 minutes longer than its 2016 predecessor. With so many characters vying for screen time, something had to give. Morena Baccarin's Vanessa is the most obvious oversight. Her romance with Wade was integral to Deadpool. In the sequel, Vanessa is shot right at the beginning, making her little more than Wade's off-screen motivation. Reactions to test screenings saw her role as wasted, and it's hard to disagree after watching the final cut. Best hilarious cameos. Deadpool's meta-humor is primed for scene-stealing cameos. In the first movie, Stan Lee appeared as a strip club DJ, and Deadpool wore a printout of Hugh Jackman's face as a mask.
In case the other fell off.
Deadpool 2 raised the bar with a host of hilarious appearances from familiar faces. Old footage of Jackman appears in a callback to X-Men Origins Wolverine, but that's nothing compared to the rest. Deadpool's low budget relative to the rest of the X-Men movies has been a running, self-aware joke.
I'm gonna wait out here, okay? It's a big house. It's funny that I only ever see two of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man.
In Deadpool 2, Wade finds himself back at the X-Mansion after being saved by Colossus. As he again rants about the lack of X-Men, Professor Xavier, Quicksilver, Nightcrawler, Storm, Cyclops, and Beast appear in a room behind him. A Hollywood A-lister makes an appearance too. After colliding with a power cable during the botched X-Force mission, Vanisher's invisibility cuts out and the audience can briefly see his real face, which looks a lot like Brad Pitt's. Last but not least, heavily disguised cameos from Alan Tudyk and Matt Damon, who appear briefly as a pair of friends who get future tased and have their truck stolen by Cable after he arrives from the future. That's an awful lot of hidden star power. Worst, X-Force X'd out. While Domino, Russell, and Cable were amazing additions to Deadpool 2, what about the team members who were introduced only to be brutally executed? On their first mission as a team, Bedlam, Zeitgeist, Shatterstar, Vanisher, Domino, and Peter skydive into high winds, and one by one, they're all obliterated in gory fashion. Screenwriter Rhett Reese revealed they deceptively shot footage to use in trailers to imply the character's larger role in the movie. It does make for a funny sequence, but laughter aside, some viewers couldn't help feeling cheated by the quick deaths after that setup. These lesser comic book characters have fans. Their demises were a disappointment for anyone hoping to see a crew of semi-obscure Marvel heroes in action. Best LGBTQ representation. Deadpool 2 is the first superhero film to openly include LGBTQ characters in the form of Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Yukio, whose romance is a matter-of-fact subplot throughout the film. As for the subtly pansexual Deadpool, his attraction to Colossus is amped up this time around. As well as the occasional metallic fondle now and then, Deadpool serenades him say-anything style after the pair fall out. And it's a good thing too, because Colossus comes to Wade's aid during the battle against Juggernaut. Worst, no true supervillain. While the formation of the new supergroup takes center stage in Deadpool 2, the movie lacks a true big bad guy. The sadistic headmaster of Essex House is as close as we get to outright villainy, but it's possible that a certain genetically altered someone has been lurking in the shadows. Mr. Sinister. The supervillain made his first full appearance in the Uncanny X-Men in 1987. The alter ego of Nathaniel Essex, he shares a name with Essex House, the orphanage Russell escapes from, perhaps a tantalizing hint of Sinister's involvement. He's been teased since a post-credit sequence of X-Men Apocalypse, but it's a little frustrating that he hasn't appeared yet. Best mid-credits scenes. It wouldn't be a Marvel movie if you didn't stay glued to your seat during the closing credits, eagerly awaiting an extra scene. This time, Wade outdoes his riff on Ferris Bueller's Day Off with not one, but 3 mid-credit scenes. By the film's conclusion, Cable's time travel device is used up and he's stuck in the present after using his final charge to save Wade's life. After the credits roll, Negasonic Teenage Warhead and Yukio fix the device, and naturally, Wade quickly uses it to wreak havoc. First, he travels back to save Vanessa. Easy choice. Deadpool's next stop is to go back in time again and save X-Force member Peter, but he's just getting started. He then makes his way into 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, where he makes quick work of his first on-screen incarnation, shooting the much-maligned mouthless Deadpool repeatedly. Then he visits Ryan Reynolds and shoots him immediately after he reads the Green Lantern script. As Deadpool, Ryan Reynolds used the opportunity to not only poke fun of himself, but to capture the kind of what-ifs fans love to hypothesize about.
I'll tell you who should not be on your show. Ryan Reynolds. No. Huge ass.
Worst, missed opportunities. Not only did the movie lack a clear villain, but that vacancy could have been filled by at least one character who had screen time, Black Tom Cassidy. He amounts to nothing more than a briefly seen brute, but in the comics, Black Tom has the ability to channel energy into destructive, forceful blasts, and a grander version of the character was originally scripted as Deadpool 2's main villain. However, as Rhett Reese told CBR, they reduced his role, saying, "His powers are to move organic material around. The entire orphanage and the trees, everything was flying around, and the hailstorms of wood. It was really cool, but it was also really, really expensive."
We don't have that kind of money.
However, there's still hope. Reese confirmed that Black Tom could return from beyond the grave at a later date.
Josh Brolin has been a formidable presence in Hollywood since he was a teen, but these days his body is getting as much attention as his body of work. The acclaimed actor has packed on a ton of muscle for an upcoming larger-than-life role. Here's how Josh Brolin got so massively jacked for his role as Cable in Deadpool 2. Comically large. Brolin's ascension to swollenness began on the page, with the actor taking a few drawings of Cable to one of his personal trainers to get specific about what he wanted. But here's the thing, Cable's most well-known look was put together by Rob Liefeld, an artist whose work is frequently defined by insanely pumped-up, stylized, and unrealistic body shapes. Justin Lovato, a personal trainer and bodybuilder who worked with Brolin on his look, said to get even halfway close to the insanely huge upper body Cable has in the comics, Brolin spent 3 hours a day in the gym for 6 weeks straight. Killing the carbs. Brolin had to wean himself off of carbohydrates to get cut like Cable, and he wasn't happy about it at first. In one of many of his inspirational Instagram posts, Brolin laid it all out. Cable's coming, growing from the inside. Clean building from a past of donut travel to the present hard case that he is. No sugar, no bread, no pastas. The machine is being built. I'm pissed off. In another post, a recording of an upper body workout, he shared his pride in going totally clean. No drugs, none of it. Fish, rice, eggs, veggies, water. I'm almost 50. It's a different time. Our access, along with some big picture discipline, results in always surprising milestones. Get on the train. Cheat day. To transform into Cable, Brolin says it required intense mental focus to stay in a fit frame of mind. But it's also okay to have a cheat day as long as it benefits that mindset. This challenge has been an awakening that there is no excuse ever, but there's no need for perfection. Cheat days replenish and tell your body it's okay. It keeps it from panicking, which usually shuts it down and ends up giving you a worse result. Keep at it, then when the day comes, murder that friggin' donut. Support network. Of course, no one gets movie star buff without a little professional help, and Brolin acknowledged that the progress he made with his body is the result of a team effort, writing "It takes a small village" in an Instagram post, tipping his hat to his trainer. And of course, he always has a shout out for Catherine Brolin, his wife, business partner, and frequently the eye behind the camera for his fitness clips on social media. The actor also finds encouragement through fellow members of the Thespian League of Muscleheads, performers like professional wrestler turned actor Dave Bautista, a man Brolin calls his great swole mentor. Brolin also related a delightful encounter he had with the man who plays Drax the Destroyer in a post on Instagram. Just saw Dave Bautista at the gym and he said, "What the f*** happened to you?" Haha, best compliment ever. Friendly competition. While positive encouragement is always nice, having a rival can be beneficial as well, encouraging a spirit of competition. Brolin has gotten plenty of that motivation from Deadpool 2 co-star Ryan Reynolds, who tags social media photos of Cable, #PremiumCable, and #Maximum. For his part, Brolin is more than capable of firing back. On Instagram, he shared a photo of the two stars side by side on competing magazine covers. Ryan Reynolds' smartass secrets or Josh Brolin's beating his demons to become Hollywood's go-to Hellraiser? It's just not fair. On brand. Along with his wife Catherine, the actor recently launched an activewear clothing line, Prevail, which he promotes in his workout posts and frequently sports. It's not just for his own bottom line either. The limited edition Cable Swole line of t-shirts, tank tops, and hoodies benefits organizations like the St. Jude's Children's Research Hospital. So in addition to keeping him healthy, getting swole for Deadpool 2 has also helped the 49-year-old raise money for charity and promote the family business. Double duty. Brolin is not only getting ripped to play Cable, he's also staying fit to once again play Thanos in Avengers Infinity War. Yes, Thanos is largely CGI and makeup, but the wizards at Marvel will also be putting as much of Brolin's physical performance on screen as they can through the process of motion capture. Fortunately, Brolin's done the hard work, and the whole world will get to see the fruits of his labor when the 1-2 punch of a new Avengers movie and Deadpool 2 hit cinemas in 2018.
Filmgoers have finally discovered something Deadpool's longtime comics fans have known for a while. The Merc with a mouth is nearly impossible to kill. He soaks up bullets, survives buildings burning down, and even regrows a hand in the weirdest way possible.
Am I crazy? Or is your hand really small?
About the size of a KFC spork.
It's easy to leave the theater wondering exactly how anyone could ever defeat someone with such an amazing healing factor. Fortunately, years of Deadpool comics have offered an array of techniques for accomplishing just such a goal. Supervillains, avert your eyes! Here are just a few ways to defeat Deadpool. It takes a planet. Like most Marvel characters, Deadpool has died in the comics, and in a pretty staggering variety of ways. He recently bit the big chimichanga in Deadpool 45, when an entire planet fell on him, which isn't too out of line for a normal Deadpool adventure anyhow. Deadpool was just one of many casualties during Marvel's latest Secret Wars event, in which different parallel worlds collide with each other, with the intention of thinning out the complicated multiverse and making Marvel Comics a bit more reader-friendly. By the end of the story, there are just two parallel Earths, the one we know and love, and Marvel's Ultimate Earth, which smack into one another. Like most comic book deaths, this was a temporary arrangement, as Mr. Fantastic and his family eventually helped recreate the entire multiverse, Deadpool included. The event certainly cements that there are some things even Deadpool's healing factor can't take on, like reality falling apart. Take away his powers. Deadpool's main thing is his impressive mutant healing factor, which allows him to bounce back from nearly anything. Without the ability to regrow body parts, he's just a guy with a lot of weapons, a very sick human body, and no sense of self-preservation. So, how can you steal Deadpool's mojo?
I'm gonna catch you! I'm gonna catch you! I'm shaking my milkshake!
When it comes to depowering super people, there are a surprising number of options. Scarlet Witch notably stripped most mutants of their powers during Marvel's House of M event. But if you don't want the nuclear option, there's always the mutant Leech. As his unfortunate name implies, Leech has the ability to effectively turn off the powers of nearby superhumans and mutants. If Deadpool were in the same general area as Leech, he could be killed just like a regular person, providing you could get past the dozens of machine guns and swords he usually carries. Yeah, good luck with that. He also barely escaped death when confronting the Walrus, a villain with a magic power-canceling hammer. So, where physical violence will usually fail, a little bit of magic goes a long way. Science! If you don't want to rely on superpowers, there's also science. The answer could be as simple as the special serum used in Deadpool 54, which made him handsome, but also took away his healing factor. Don't have access to a chemistry set? Carbonadium is also an option. Like vibranium and adamantium, carbonadium is another fictional Marvel metal that villains like Dr. Octopus and Omega Red have used over the years. It's one of the reasons Omega Red is such a deadly foe for Wolverine. His radioactive tentacles are able to negate Logan's healing factor. While Deadpool hasn't felt the deadly sting of carbonadium himself, a Deadpool from a parallel universe used some carbonadium katanas as he killed every living hero. The swords were able to successfully decapitate Wolverine and turn off his healing factor, so no one is safe. Cure his cancer. The sad truth is that without his hyperactive healing powers, Deadpool would have already died from especially aggressive cancer. Fortunately, his healing factor is in harmony with the disease, helping him to grow new cells at the exact rate that he loses them, even though it doesn't really fix his freaky face. As a result, Deadpool's level of healing seems to be a bit above the usual Wolverine levels. This was demonstrated in a rather grisly way, when a group of Skrulls decided to steal Deadpool's powers for themselves, but didn't steal his illness. That meant that their bodies were healing way too much, way too fast, causing the Skrull warriors to become swollen and deformed until they exploded. Theoretically, the same thing would happen to Deadpool if any enterprising villain were able to cure his cancer. It's just too much of a good thing. Give him the feels. Despite often being written as an insane and violent parody, one consistent quality Deadpool has is that he formed strong bonds with friends, teammates, and kids. Who else could have formed a rapport with Negasonic Teenage Warhead?
You, chicken noodle, nothing compares to you. Sinead O'Connor, 1990. Sorry.
That's all right. You're cool.
That bonding with young people is rooted in the comics as well, with Deadpool forming a protective relationship with Evan, a young clone of Apocalypse. What does this have to do with defeating Deadpool? Well, in true comics tradition, he's just like every other hero. He's easily manipulated when it comes to people he cares about.
Why did you say that name?
Deadpool was willing to risk his own life in order to redeem Evan and stop him from going down the dark path of Apocalypse. All it takes is a little emotional leverage to defeat Deadpool. A broken heart might not kill him, but it would totally keep him out of action for a while. Heroes and villains. Even before a planet was dropped on him, both the good guys and the bad guys have actually been defeating Deadpool for years. Thanos is one of the biggest villains in the Marvel Universe. Even when he isn't wielding the Infinity Gauntlet, he's able to obliterate characters that are otherwise really difficult to kill. Wasting no time, Thanos kills Deadpool on the second page of the 4-issue Deadpool vs. Thanos miniseries. Deadpool is legitimately dead, until he's brought back to life by Death herself, who of course has a crush on Deadpool. And that's not even the last all-powerful opponent that tangled with Wade. Loki was actually able to defeat Deadpool in the most bizarre way possible. Forget about magic and powerful Asgardian weapons, which would probably do a good job cutting Deadpool down to size. Loki's curse results in Deadpool being annoyed by almost everything in his life, and the creation of possibly the best Deadpool costume of all time. And as a twisted bonus, the curse also prevents Deadpool from killing himself whenever he tries. It's crazy. Even for Deadpool, the potential to defeat Deadpool seems to lie in the hands of any number of Marvel characters. The Sentry, with his Superman-level strength and his willingness to kill, has a reputation for throwing people into the sun, which Deadpool probably wouldn't be able to recover from. Mr. Fantastic is known for trapping people in inescapable pocket universes. Molecule Man can control matter at an atomic level, and a Deadpool without atoms is no Deadpool at all. And we're not saying that Squirrel Girl can defeat just about anyone, but Squirrel Girl.
Will I see your squirrels? Horrible! Horrible! Squirrels!
Everybody knows Deadpool has a mutant healing factor. That's kind of his thing. It's no secret that he's aware he's a fictional character either. Breaking the fourth wall is what set Deadpool apart from all those other grizzled, bulky, pouch-wearing 90s tough guys and made him into the wisecracking anti-hero he is today. But the Marvel Universe is filled with mutants who can heal themselves, like Wolverine, Sabretooth, Mystique, and X-23, just to name a few. And Wade Wilson needs more than just a speedy recovery to stay ahead of his mutant cohorts. Thankfully, Deadpool has many other tricks up his sleeve. Here are a few. Master of Disguise. Deadpool is tough, funny, and charming, but let's face it, he's not exactly a looker. The experimental surgery that gave Wade Wilson his regenerative powers also kicked his cancer into overdrive. And while the procedure kept tumors from ravaging his body, it didn't keep them from growing all over his face. As a result, Deadpool looks like, well,
like a testicle with teeth.
His words, not ours. Anyway, he understandably prefers not to show his face in public. So when he's on the job, that isn't much of a problem. Put a mask over that gruesome mug and nobody can tell the difference. But to hit the town, he has to get creative. In the comics, Deadpool uses a holographic image inducer and disguises to change his appearance and wander around incognito. Deadpool also employs the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' proven low-tech disguise, a hat and a trench coat, and the comforting knowledge that in New York City, a tumor-infested weirdo probably won't be the weirdest thing you'll see wandering the streets. Teleportation. Deadpool can't fly and doesn't have super speed. So what's a busy mercenary to do when he has to get somewhere in a hurry? In the movie, he takes a taxi. But that doesn't make for very exciting comics, and as the film version of Deadpool proved, Wade's not always great at keeping track of his belongings. Yep, the guns were in that taxi. As a result, Deadpool has used a number of teleportation devices to get around quickly in the comics. In the early issues of Deadpool, he has a device tucked away in one of his many pouches, which allows him to zip around with ease. Then, he even biologically combined with Cable for a while in the Cable and Deadpool series due to a crazy virus, which allowed him to share Cable's teleportation tech. Hard to get drunk. Deadpool's healing factor is pretty handy. It stops cancer, it cures decapitation, it lets him walk away from fights with creatures like the Hulk, and it kicks his metabolism into overdrive. That's right, no matter how much he eats, Deadpool won't gain any weight. That's all good news when you're fighting supervillains, but it isn't so useful when you want to get absolutely hammered. And let's face it, Wade is the kind of guy who could use a drink every now and then. But Deadpool can get drunk, he just needs a lot of alcohol to make it happen. In Deadpool number 12, Wade spends an entire day and night drinking before he's even slightly buzzed. In Deadpool number 7, a villain pays Deadpool to make Iron Man drunk. But instead of forcing Tony Stark off the wagon, Deadpool takes care of business himself. Wade clocks Stark with a liquor bottle, then straps into the Iron Man armor, but not before downing an entire sack full of stolen booze. That fulfills Wade's contract. Iron Man had to get plastered, not Tony. And best of all, Deadpool doesn't even have a hangover when he wakes up. Now that's a superpower. Superhuman strength. Deadpool is able to lift between 800 to 50,000 pounds, but you wouldn't know it just by looking at him. While super strength is one of Deadpool's many powers, you rarely see him lifting heavy objects, and the only time Wade seems to make use of his enhanced abilities is when he goes toe-to-toe with heavyweights like the Hulk and the Juggernaut. Still, every once in a while, somebody hints that Deadpool is a lot stronger than he seems. During his earliest appearances, he went toe-to-toe with some of Marvel's strongest characters. In X-Force number 11, Shatterstar, a warrior from the Mojoverse with super strength, calls Deadpool his equal, right before Deadpool knocks him out cold. In X-Force number 15, Wade is powerful enough to kick Cable's head through a stone wall. Deadpool's super strength is made abundantly clear in Cable and Deadpool number 13. Haji bin Barrett, one of the world's most deadly terrorists, is murdered, and Deadpool wants to solve the case. As Deadpool gathers clues, the medical examiner concludes that Barrett was choked by an adult male using just 2 fingers. In fact, the murderer actually squeezed too hard, accidentally snapping Barrett's neck mid-killing, a feat that would require superhuman strength. At the same time, Deadpool discovers that he's the murderer. He just can't immediately remember why he did it. Because, you know, comics. Cursed to be immortal. Thanos, one of the biggest bads in a galaxy full of big bads, has the hots for death, as in the literal personification of mortality, and he'll do practically anything to prove it. So, as you can imagine, Thanos isn't exactly thrilled when Death and Deadpool strike up a relationship. In Deadpool Death Annual 98, Wade first meets Thanos' would-be gal pal when he's stuck in the Department K medical facility, undergoing the treatments that will eventually turn him into Deadpool. Thanks to his cancer and the government's experiments, Wade is very, very close to dying, and Death uses her feminine wiles to try and convince Wade to finish the job. However, Wade's newfound healing powers, and a reluctant sense of heroism, foil his best attempts at suicide by supervillain, and the couple is forced apart. Later, to keep Deadpool away from death, Thanos puts a curse on Wade that brings him back to life whenever he dies, and will keep him that way. Resistant to psychic attacks. Wade's inability to die isn't his real superpower. His insanity is. Deadpool knows he's a comic book character because he's absolutely crazy. And while his broken psyche doesn't help much when it comes to getting a happy ending, it's a huge boon when he faces off against psychics. For example, in Deadpool number 69, Deadpool finds himself in a duel with a telepathic mutant known as the Black Swan. As they fight, Swan tries to poke around in Wade's head to find the disarm code for a bomb Deadpool brought with him. Unfortunately for Swan, things don't work exactly like he expected. Wade welcomes Swan into his mind, which is a savagely insane place. That distracts Swan long enough for Deadpool to shove the villain's head in the fireplace. Deadpool attempts to defuse the bomb, but it goes off anyway. Because, hey, Deadpool's not great with details. Deadpool's healing powers help fight against telepathy too. In Cable and Deadpool number 8, the X-Men enlist Deadpool to help stop Cable, who's trying to create peace by uniting the world's nations against a common enemy, himself. Emma Frost, a psychic, uses Cerebro to shield the X-Men from Cable's telepathy. But Deadpool has an easier way. They could have just had the conversation inside his brain, which is immune to telepathy thanks to its ever-changing biology.
Deadpool 2 is finally here, and it left fans with more than just a stitch in their sides. It also left them with a lot of questions. Sure, continuity and logic aren't exactly important in a Deadpool movie, but there are still some questions we'd love to have answered, even if those answers have absolutely no meaning. So grab your stack of X-Force comic books, button up your 501s, and get ready for a bumpy ride, because there's a high wind advisory in effect for the rest of this spoiler-filled look at the biggest unanswered questions in Deadpool 2. Where are the other X-Men?
Big house. It's funny that I only ever see 2 of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man.
Ryan Reynolds and the rest of the Deadpool gang have made a lot of hay over the fact that the only X-Men who appear in the 2 Deadpool movies are Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead. While it was just a wink and nod one-liner in the first film, this time around, the rest of the team actually makes a hilarious cameo, deliberately avoiding Deadpool because, well, wouldn't you? As funny as that was, though, we have to ask, where exactly are the rest of the X-Men during the climactic final fight against Juggernaut? One of the most dangerous mutant menaces in the world is attacking an orphanage filled with vulnerable mutant children. This is the entire reason the X-Men exist in the first place, and yet the only ones who bother to show up are, you guessed it, Colossus and Negasonic Teenage Warhead, along with her new girlfriend Yukio. What else could possibly be going on that's so important Wolverine, Storm, Beast, and the rest of the team couldn't be bothered to make an appearance? Of course, they aren't quite the same without Hugh Jackman.
I'm Wolverine.
jaw drop.
What happened to the rest of X-Force? Arguably the funniest part in Deadpool 2 is the amazing sequence where the newly formed X-Force tries to parachute down to attack the convoy carrying Russell, only for almost every single one of them to be horribly and hilariously killed off in graphic and preposterous ways. Saddest of all, of course, is the death of gregarious everyman Peter thanks to acid vomit taking out one of his arms, which kinda sucks. Luckily, during the end credits scene, Deadpool uses Cable's time machine to go back in time and change events so Peter is saved. Which begs the question, what happened to the rest of X-Force? Did Deadpool bother to save the lives of the rest of the team he assembled? Or did he only save Peter? We never find out, though his comment about how nobody liked Shatterstar suggests at least one member of the team might not be back for Deadpool 3. X-Force! What's the deal with Cable? In the comics, Cable has a lot going on. He's actually from our time period, sent to the future to save him from the technovirus that is slowly turning him into a robot. He's also the son of Cyclops and Jean Grey's evil clone, and usually uses his inherited telepathic and telekinetic abilities to keep the virus in check. Oh, and he comes back from the future to protect the prophesied mutant messiah, Hope, who he adopts as his daughter.
I'm Cable, and I'm from the future, and I like blowing up.
So, is any of that at all happening in the movies? Is he still Scott and Jean's son? Is Hope an adopted mutant messiah? Does he have the technovirus, or is that just a robot arm? Does he have mutant powers? At several points in Deadpool 2, his weapons fly across the room to him. Is that telekinesis, or some kind of technological gadget? In short, we know almost nothing about the movie version of Cable. Here's hoping we get to know a lot more about him in the future, no pun intended. Is Vanessa actually Death? So, is Vanessa actually the avatar of Death? Bear with us on this one. In the first Deadpool film, Wade Wilson has a super healing factor that even kept him from dying when he was stabbed through the brain. That's pretty powerful. But in Deadpool 2, his power levels seem to be cranked up more than a few notches. In fact, he completely blows himself apart in the opening sequence with his head flying off and all his limbs going every direction, only to get pieced back together. In effect, Deadpool is now immortal, something he mentioned several times in the film, claiming he just can't die. This is actually true in the comics, where Wade falls in love with Death, who takes the form of a beautiful woman. Death has a jealous ex, though, who you might know, Thanos. He curses Deadpool with immortality so that Wade and Death can never be together, only meeting occasionally in brief flashes of the afterlife when he is literally on death's door, just to be yanked back to life no matter how hard he tries. That sounds a whole lot like the relationship Wade and Vanessa have throughout Deadpool 2 after she is killed in the opening sequence. Sure, he eventually brings her back to life during the end credit sequence, but still we have to wonder if Vanessa is actually Death, which would explain why he can't die, why he sees her when he's close to dying, and even why he got cancer as soon as they started a relationship. Will there be a Deadpool 3? Finally, the big question on everyone's mind, will there even be a Deadpool 3? With Deadpool 2 set to become another box office smash, it's a no-brainer that the folks at 20th Century Fox would love to make another one. And fans are certainly clamoring for it, but Ryan Reynolds recently told Entertainment Weekly that he's not so sure. Why? Well, for the best of reasons, he's not convinced it would be a good story, saying, "In order for Deadpool to function properly within his own universe, you need to take everything away from him. I don't think you can keep doing that. I do see him as being part of X-Force, obviously. I would love to see him in a team-up sort of thing. I just think if you're going to do another Deadpool solo film, you've got to really, get that budget down to nothing and just swing for the fences, and break all kinds of weird barriers and do stuff that no one else can do." Luckily, there's an X-Force film currently in development, and the end of the film certainly seems to set up a team spin-off. So one way or another, there looks to be more Deadpool in our future, and hopefully more Peter too. That guy is the best.
As it turns out, we are looking for someone with diabetes.
Peter's your man.
It takes a lot for a kid to steal the spotlight from Deadpool, but Julian Dennison has a superhuman amount of charisma. A native of New Zealand, the young actor plays Russell, the mysterious mutant at the center of Deadpool 2. It's a huge role for Dennison, a self-proclaimed Marvel movie fan, but it's far from his first. He's been in critically acclaimed indie flicks, hugely popular viral videos, and one of the most legitimately entertaining body spray commercials ever made. Here's why the kid from Deadpool 2 looks so familiar. Shopping. Dennison was just a shy student from the suburbs of New Zealand when the filmmakers for the coming-of-age film Shopping came to his school, looking for a young actor to star in the film. Dennison's mom told Stuff that the filmmakers narrowed down the search to Dennison or his twin brother Christian. The film premiered at the Sundance Film Festival in 2013 and instantly turned Dennison into a local celebrity. He won Best Supporting Actor at the New Zealand Film Awards and credits the experience with him wanting to become an actor. Blazed. Denison's debut in Shopping didn't just impress the critics, it also brought him one incredibly important fan, Taika Waititi, the Oscar-nominated director of the 2004 short film Two Cars, One Night, who would eventually go on to helm Thor Ragnarok. Waititi thought Denison would be perfect for his next project, an extended public service announcement about the dangers of driving under the influence of marijuana. The 2-minute video for the New Zealand Transport Agency features 3 kids who imitate the antics of their stoned fathers behind the wheel of a car.
5 k's an hour! It's too fast! It's too fast! Take the wheel, bro! I'm freaking out!
Denison is hilarious throughout much of the clip, but he also shows a hint of depth in the final moments. The commercial became a viral sensation and generated headlines around the world.
I love this music. What music?
It also created a bond between Waititi and Denison that would yield another successful collaboration down the road. Paper Planes. Denison's next appearance on the big screen came courtesy of a supporting role in the family drama Paper Planes, an uplifting tale about a boy in Australia who dreams of competing in the World Paper Plane Championships in Japan. Denison plays Kevin, a school bully who eventually becomes the best friend of the main character. Acclaimed Australian director Robert Connolly co-wrote and directed the film with an impressive cast that includes Sam Worthington. While the movie performed well at the Australian box office, it was far less successful in the rest of the world. Still, critics couldn't help but notice Denison, even in a smaller role. The New Zealand Herald said he turned in a scene-stealing performance as the reformed bully Kevin.
Doesn't get much closer than that.
Hunt for the Wilder People. If you recognize Denison from anything prior to Deadpool 2, it's most likely Hunt for the Wilder People, the heartwarming comedy that served as his official breakthrough. Writer and director Taika Waititi didn't even make the young actor audition for the role of Ricky Baker, a juvenile delinquent taken to live on a remote farm with a loving foster mother and her cranky husband Hector.
You can't read?
What you
You're like one of those people who raised by wolves or something, eh? What's this? This is words. You're stupid.
After a sudden tragedy leads Ricky to ineptly attempt to fake his own death, he and Hector go on the run into the New Zealand bush and become the targets of a comical manhunt.
Just got real! Back up, homies, and let go of my uncle!
Denison took a month away from school to work on the movie, but it was definitely worth it. Hunt for the Wilder People premiered at the Sundance Film Festival and became the top-grossing New Zealand film of all time. It also directly paved the way for Denison's part in Deadpool 2. Ryan Reynolds told the New Zealand Herald the casting was partly a result of his friendship with Waititi, who co-starred with Reynolds in 2011's Green Lantern. You got sprung. After Hunt for the Wilder People made Denison one of the most recognizable people in New Zealand, he put his star power to use in a completely unexpected way. In 2016, he teamed up with Air New Zealand for a clip to celebrate the start of spring and Random Acts of Kindness Day. In a sort of Kiwi version of Pay It Forward, Denison traveled around the country to surprise unsuspecting people with thoughtful gestures.
I'm like Santa Claus, but in spring.
In the clip, Denison pays for people's meals at a restaurant, takes flowers and chocolates to patients in a hospital, and gives out free ice cream.
So another awesome idea of ours to put a spring back into someone's step was to throw a banger-ass party.
He ends the video by calling on New Zealanders to surprise others with kindness. And we'd be shocked if he didn't inspire at least a few to do just that. Chronesthesia. About 4 months after Hunt for the Wilder People hit theaters in New Zealand, Denison returned to the big screen for a small role in a very different type of movie. He played Benny in the indie time travel romance Chronesthesia. The film was made in Wellington, New Zealand with next to no budget and a bare-bones crew. Chronesthesia premiered at the New Zealand International Film Festival in 2016, but it largely flew under the radar in America. Summer Wonderland. In late 2016, Denison showed up in another video for Air New Zealand, and this time he had a noteworthy pal. In Summer Wonderland, Denison shows up in a recording studio where Irish pop star Ronan Keating is recording a take on the holiday classic Winter Wonderland. But Keating doesn't make it past the second line before Denison interrupts.
I'm gonna stop you there, Roman.
Ronan.
It doesn't really snow down here at Christmas, so...
Keating eventually walks out, but the pair soon work out a new version of the song that's more appropriate for the climate. Keating said in a press release that he signed on for the project because he's a big fan of New Zealand, but he also loved collaborating with Denison. He said, Working with Julian was a breeze. He's an absolute legend, incredibly professional, and to top it off, he definitely can sing.
Ricky Baker, Ricky Baker, Ricky.
Lynx Australia. If you want a video to go viral, it's become increasingly clear that Denizen should be involved. The people at Lynx Body Spray must have known this, and in early 2018, they teamed with him for an extended commercial for their Australia fragrance. In the commercial, Denizen plays Humphrey, a kid who doesn't have the best luck with the ladies, while his older brother Darius is good at everything.
He's just so chill and confident. He can even talk to girls. Strange behaviour for a Kiwi, you know?
Darius eventually reveals his secret is Lynx Australia. The ad ran on TV and before movies and theaters in Australia, but it reached audiences around the world when it hit the internet. Less than 3 months after it was released, the ad had millions of views on YouTube.
Oh, this is a bad idea.
Deadpool 2 is finally here, and with it comes more Easter eggs and an industrial hatchery. It's no surprise that Wade Wilson would keep the pop culture references coming fast and furious, but Deadpool 2 also came with a pretty wide assortment of secrets that you'd have to dig pretty far into your comic archives to find. Gird your loins and prepare yourself for spoilers, like a stolen prison pen, we're going deep. X stuff. Deadpool's connection to the X-Men movie universe isn't a secret, it's just a thing that the serious X-Men films don't really acknowledge. Deadpool himself is the world's biggest critic of Ryan Reynolds' performance in X-Men Origins Wolverine, which he makes explicitly obvious during the movie's mid-credits scene by pumping a dozen bullets into the other, original Deadpool. Deadpool 2 does everything it can to try to weasel itself into the core X-Men movie world. Deadpool wears Professor Xavier's Cerebro helmet and says that it smells like the original X trilogy's Professor Patrick Stewart. He also zips around the X-Mansion in the Professor's iconic wheelchair, and most notably, Deadpool briefly stands in front of a room filled with actual real-life X-Men, including new Professor X, James McAvoy. It's the stuff X-fan dreams are made of. Essex stuff. Even though longtime X-Men foe Mr. Sinister, aka Nathaniel Essex, hasn't actually appeared on the big screen yet, his presence in the X-movie universe looms large. So far, he's only appeared in name. By the end of X-Men Apocalypse, his name is seen on a briefcase and is connected to the Weapon X facility that created Wolverine. Logan's Transigen Corporation, which created Laura, aka X-23, has been confirmed to be related to Essex Corp as well. In Deadpool 2, Essex is the name of the school that tortures young mutants, including Russell, out of using their natural powers. The Bizarro X-Mansion seems to be pretty anti-mutant, so while their ideals don't really align with the overall Essex ethos of mutant experimentation, the name remains a common thread throughout all arms of the X-universe. Goonies never say die. Before he was Thanos or Cable or anything else for that matter, Josh Brolin first appeared on the big screen as Brand Walsh in The Goonies, a fact that Deadpool will not let him forget. Deadpool mockingly calling him One-Eyed Willie isn't just a dig at his one-peeper. One-Eyed Willie was the pirate that the Goonies were searching for in their own iconic film. Want to double down on the Goon love? After Deadpool is torn in two by Juggernaut and is recovering on the couch, he's wearing the exact same shirt that Chunk did in The Goonies. It's all done out of love, of course. Ryan Reynolds and Josh Brolin have a rare kinship. Both starred in absolutely terrible DC movie flops, Green Lantern and Jonah Hex, respectively. Callback attack. Deadpool 2's many commercials revealed a whole family-sized omelet's worth of Easter eggs, but a few super clever ones were hidden in plain sight. When an exhausted Deadpool attempts to take out a barrage of bullets with nothing but his swords, that's actually a callback to when he did the exact same thing with much more unbelievable success in X-Men Origins Wolverine. And yes, Deadpool finding a whole lot of cocaine and the cure for blindness stashed under some floorboards in Al's apartment is an unexpected callback to the first Deadpool film.
There's about 116 kilos of cocaine buried somewhere in the apartment, right next to the cure for blindness. Good luck.
He wasn't kidding. Cameo City. Notably absent from Deadpool 2's many crazy cameos was Marvel patriarch Stan Lee, who only appeared as a mural on the side of a building, and Deadpool 2's teaser trailer.
Wow, nice suit. Zip it, Stan Lee!
One might have also expected Deadpool co-creator Rob Liefeld to appear again after showing up in the first film, but he's nowhere to be seen.
Fuck Liefeld.
Instead, he's called out in a much more creative way, as the creator of Domino, who Deadpool proclaims to have a very stupid set of powers, and was probably created by a guy who can't draw feet. Comic art historians will note that Mr. Liefeld's grasp of the human anatomy is creative at its best, hilarious at its worst, and more often than not includes large clouds of smoke, usually focused somewhere below each character's knees.
We have a minute and a half or so. I want to tighten those feet. Okay. All right, guys? Okay.
Noted Deadpool writer Jerry Duggan also gets a shout-out. The parkway on which part of the epic convoy battle sequence takes place is named after him. And yes, your eyes were not deceiving you, that indeed was Brad Pitt, playing the ill-fated Vanisher. At one point scheduled to play Cable himself, Pitt's cameo appearance and immediate death were added in post-production, but are nonetheless pretty unexpected. Also unexpected is the surprise appearance of Alan Tudyk, a toilet paper-obsessed good old boy, appearing alongside Matt Damon, buried under so many prosthetics that he's unrecognizable. This, of course, is his second Marvel cameo over the past year. X-Force. The sudden gory departure of almost the entirety of the newly formed X-Force is something of a surprise, but it really shouldn't be. Pretty much the exact same thing happens in X-Force issue 116 when a newly formed group of mutants calling themselves X-Force are immediately explosively dispatched during their very first appearance. Among them is Zeitgeist, the same tattooed, acid-puking mutant that's welcomed into Deadpool's X-Force. That tattoo of 116 on his arm wasn't just an interstate, it's the issue where he died. And we can't mention highly specific numerical references without Deadpool's prisoner number 24601.
Now prisoner 24601!
Most significantly, it's the number of Jean Valjean in Les Miserables, a role played by Hugh Jackman on the big screen. Bad taste. Deadpool co-star TJ Miller has been embroiled in multiple controversies since December of 2016, including but not limited to calling in a fake bomb threat on a train, assaulting an Uber driver during a political argument, and allegedly committing violence and sexual assault against a woman in 2001. When the latter accusation surfaced after Miller's prominent role in Deadpool 2 was already in production, the film's producers made the difficult and controversial decision to keep the Emoji Movie star in the picture, but axe him from Deadpool 3. Still, the film couldn't resist taking a jab at the situation. During the news report about Fire Fist's explosive meltdown, the crawl at the bottom of the screen mentions that Christopher Plummer had turned down a role in Deadpool 2. Famously, Plummer reshot all of Kevin Spacey's scenes and All the Money in the World after Kevin Spacey was accused of sexual misconduct. It's not like anything in Deadpool 2 was in good taste anyhow.
No!
Good taste. It's hard to tell exactly where Deadpool ends and Ryan Reynolds begins, and it's a line that's blurred constantly. Deadpool signs a Wolverine cereal box with Reynolds' name, and later shoots Reynolds through the head as he considers even thinking about appearing in Green Lantern. But despite all of the movie's leaps from different realities and tasteless jokes, one throwaway line has more heart than the whole film combined. When Wade Wilson considers the name Connor for his kid, it's not meaningless. Prior to the original Deadpool coming out, Ryan Reynolds enjoyed a special screening of the film with a Make-A-Wish kid named Connor McGrath. While Connor passed in 2016, Reynolds made sure that his love of Deadpool and his legacy lived on in Deadpool 2, in the most heartwarming and heartbreaking way possible. Costume connection. While Deadpool is mostly known for his red and black duds, he's fought crime in a wide variety of colors. While seeking membership in the X-Men during Deadpool issue 16, he actually makes his own X-Men uniform with a giant, obvious X on the front. Whoever designed the X-Men's trainee uniforms in Deadpool 2 had pretty much the same idea. Deadpool, during his darker X-Force days, has also been seen sporting a black and grey version of his familiar costume. His charred costume near the end of the movie is a dead ringer for his X-Force comics counterpart. It's no coincidence. This is when the real X-Force finally comes together. Sorry, Shatterstar, you suck. Oh, Canada. Because you just can't have Ryan Reynolds in the room without making a few jokes about his home and native land up north, Deadpool 2 has a few quips about America's friendly hat, Canada. Much more subtle, however, is a reference in name only to Canada's #1 crime-fighting team. They're never mentioned Alpha Flight. In this case, Alpha Flight is little more than the name of an airline or travel agency posted as a taxi ad, but the sentiment is there, and it's covered in maple syrup and hockey.
With the return of Deadpool's Wade Wilson comes a whole new set of faces that will join the hero in his fight against evil in Deadpool 2, and a new standout has taken the internet by storm. Meet Peter, played by Rob Delaney. On the surface, Peter is your average middle-aged dude, but it seems that what he lacks in superpowers, he makes up for with enthusiasm. Rob Delaney may be a new face in the comic book movies, but this isn't his first rodeo. Let's take a closer look at why Peter from Deadpool 2 looks so darn familiar.
You're in.
Funniest person on Twitter. Back before Twitter expanded its character limit from 140 to 280, Delaney regularly used the social media platform to workshop material, bringing witty quips and humorous observations to the internet before it was the fashionable thing to do. In 2012, Delaney became the first person to be named the funniest person on Twitter at Comedy Central's Comedy Awards. Delaney explained his social media success to Mashable, saying, "Don't work too hard on a tweet. When you see people trying to, for example, synthesize 2 current news stories into one clever tweet, it can get pretty clunky and their labor is obvious, rendering their tweet unfunny." Published author. In 2013, Delaney released a memoir titled Rob Delaney, Mother, Wife, Sister, Human, Warrior, Falcon, Yardstick, Turban, Cabbage. While the book featured its fair share of dad humor and fart jokes, Delaney also used the medium to explore his very real struggles with depression and alcohol addiction. A decade before he honed his craft online, he was regularly bombing on stage, and he made a habit of getting blackout drunk. With his book, Delaney returns to the rock-bottom moments that helped shape the man he's become. Delaney told the LA Times, "It was a memoir that paid no attention to chronology and was just about memories that surfaced in my own sort of psyche, because I figured those would be the ones that would be most interesting to people."
Yeah, I drove into a building in LA and broke both my arms and was in jail in a wheelchair.
Stand-up. According to an interview with Good Men Project, Delaney's life changed in 2009 after he was arrested for driving under the influence. He got sober, and about a year later, he began seriously pursuing stand-up comedy. The comedian explained, "Honesty is the main ingredient. I mean, you must be funny, but certainly the funniest stuff will always be the most honest. No secret there." Delaney has since played shows all over the country and eventually landed his own 2013 comedy special, Rob Delaney, live at the Bowery Ballroom.
Now, if you see someone with a neck tattoo, you know that they got it at their local muffin shop. They got like a Frappuccino neck tattoo special.
TV roles. Over the years, Delaney has continued racking up credits both behind and in front of the camera. For a short time, he had a project in the works at Comedy Central called @RobDelaney, which unfortunately never saw the light of day. As he continued flexing his comedic muscles, Delaney found himself graduating from the confines of the internet and eventually landing in the posh arena of primetime network television, appearing in shows like Cougar Town and Burning Love. The funny man also appeared in multiple sketches on Comedy Central's Key and Peele, with his standout performance being the campaign advisor character. Catastrophe. In 2014, Delaney relocated his family to the UK.
I love it. I love living there, and their teeth are a mess.
According to the Los Angeles Times, just 1 year after settling into his new home, the hit series Catastrophe premiered on Britain's Channel 4, and soon after, Amazon Prime's streaming platform. The Emmy-nominated, BAFTA-winning series is co-created and co-written by Delaney and Sharon Horgan.
Thank you, Sharon Horgan, for teaching me how to write comedy. I did stand-up, I could tell a joke, but not make a show. Thank you.
Not only did the series disrupt the rom-com formula, with a pleasant amount of vulgarity throughout, the realistic subject matter came at audiences with a brutal sense of honesty seldom seen on the small screen. Variety reported back in 2016 that the streaming service renewed Catastrophe through its 4th season. UK Star. One of the perks of being the funniest person on Twitter is the global audience that the platform provides. Once Delaney relocated to Britain, his star only continued to rise. In between his time as a full-time comedian, TV star, and writer, Delaney has made a habit of appearing on a handful of British panel shows, a popular type of game show that throws celebrities into the mix. Throughout his experience doing stand-up comedy and pontificating on pop culture online, Delaney has proven himself to be a worthy competitor.
Vanessa Carlyle stole Wade Wilson's heart in the 2016 hit Deadpool.
What's a nice place like you doing and a girl like this?
And the actress who played her, Morena Baccarin, stole viewers' hearts along the way. Baccarin's been appearing in hit properties since 2001, so you might feel like you've seen her before, especially if you're a sci-fi fan. But it may be hard to figure out exactly where. Here's why Vanessa from Deadpool looks so familiar. Way Off Broadway. Baccarin's first leading role came in the small film Way Off Broadway, in which she played a young actress trying to make it in New York City. Her character Rebecca was one of a group of friends struggling to find a way to turn their artistic ventures while also dealing with her own personal anguish. Although the drama wasn't seen by many, it earned mostly good reviews, with Baccarin's performance in particular being singled out for praise. Firefly. In what's probably still her most well-known small-screen role, Baccarin played Inara on Joss Whedon's short-lived series Firefly. While many of the planned storylines surrounding the character were cut short when the series was cancelled after just 14 episodes, Inara was a fan favorite for her poise, charisma, and intelligence. Despite Firefly's short run, the series became a cult hit, and years after being cancelled, it was brought back for a feature film, Serenity, in which Baccarin reprised her role. The OC. It might take a hardcore fan of the OC to remember much about Matt Ramsey, Sandy Cohen's partner during his tenure as the lead of the Newport Group. Matt had a brief love interest in Baccarin's Maya Griffin, the daughter of Sandy's rival Henry. Although Baccarin only showed up in 3 episodes of the series, her appearance is still notable. It's where she met her future Gotham co-star and fiancé Ben McKenzie, who starred as Ryan Atwood on the series. It wasn't love at first sight for the two, though. In fact, McKenzie has said he doesn't remember seeing Baccarin on set and thought he was meeting her for the first time when they reunited on Gotham. Awkward. How I Met Your Mother. Baccarin only appeared on 1 episode of How I Met Your Mother, but it was an important one. Her character arrived during Marshall and Lily's season 2 breakup, with Baccarin starring as Chloe, the only woman Marshall actually dates during the brief separation. While Chloe didn't get a happy ending, she'll always be remembered for her crazy eyes and pushing the show's main couple back together. Stargate SG-1. With Firefly, Baccarin developed a following in the sci-fi community, one she expanded with her next few roles. Her first step back into genre fare came in Stargate SG-1. The actress played the villainous Adria for 5 episodes of the series and briefly reprised the role in the movie Stargate: The Ark of Truth. In addition to serving as her next big sci-fi role, Stargate was also Baccarin's first real chance to play a villain, a side she'd explore in some of her later roles. V. Baccarin's next big role also involved playing a sci-fi bad guy, this time in the ABC series V. The revival of the high-concept 80s TV hit featured Baccarin as Anna, the queen of an invading alien species. Baccarin earned multiple Saturn Award nominations and a Scream Award nomination for her work. Unfortunately, the series was plagued by low ratings and high production costs, and was cancelled before it could reach a 3rd season. Guest starring roles. Like many actors, Baccarin has made the guest starring rounds on TV, appearing on shows like Heartland, Numbers, Medium, and The Good Wife, in addition to a multi-episode arc on The Mentalist as a murderous matchmaker. Super fans of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia may also recognize Baccarin from the show's unaired pilot, in which she played the transgendered Carmen. Baccarin said she appeared in the episode because she was college friends with writer and star Glenn Howerton, but she unfortunately wasn't able to continue with the series due to other commitments. Homeland. Baccarin earned an Emmy nomination for her Homeland performance as Nick's wife, Jessica, appearing consistently throughout the series' first and second series. Although she became less of a staple in Season 3 due to her real-life pregnancy, Jessica was written off the show before the 4th season, opening her up for other projects where her character got a little better treatment. Still, despite the fact that fans didn't enjoy her character, Baccarin demonstrated her dramatic chops, and earned a major award nomination to boot. Back in the day. Making the jump to big screen comedies in 2014, Baccarin starred in Back in the Day, created by and co-starring Smallville's Michael Rosenbaum. The movie's tone didn't go over well with critics, with the film amassing a terrible 11% on Rotten Tomatoes. Fortunately, it didn't completely sink Baccarin's comedy career. Spy. Baccarin's rebound came in the form of Spy, a hit comedy that sits at a much more impressive 94% on Rotten Tomatoes. In the movie, Baccarin plays Karen Walker, the perfect super spy and a rival to Melissa McCarthy's Susan. A solid comedy showcase for Baccarin, Spy was also one of her most notable pre-Deadpool big screen roles, proving the TV star could work in a big-budget blockbuster. Gotham. Before Deadpool, Baccarin took on the role of another beloved comic book character portraying Dr. Leslie Tompkins on Fox's Gotham. Her on-screen love story with Jim Gordon has spilled over into real life, and she and Ben McKenzie got engaged in 2016, shortly after the birth of their daughter. Baccarin says Lee's pregnancy on Gotham wasn't at all related to her own, though, just a happy coincidence. Let's hope their real-life romance goes better than it does on Gotham.
Deadpool. Everybody loves him. And with good reason. As a character, he's irreverent and unpredictable. He tends to shake things up in both comics and movies, asking the real questions that fans have always wondered about.
I'm gonna wait out here, okay? It's a big house. It's funny that I only ever see two of you. It's almost like the studio couldn't afford another X-Man.
Deadpool wasn't always the butt-womping, fast-talking, immortal mercenary that he is today. Here's a brief history of Deadpool's weirdest moments in comics, movies, and video games. Stroke of genius. To be clear up front, Deadpool is pretty much an unoriginal character. Writer Fabian Nicieza was trying to cobble together a coherent script for Marvel's New Mutants based on artist Rob Liefeld's plots and characters when he noticed that Liefeld basically copied the DC Comics character Deathstroke. Like Deathstroke, Liefeld's Deadpool was also a super agile mercenary, and the two were visually similar enough to make the weird copy unmistakable. Bringing the Ouroboros of unoriginality full circle, Nicieza gave Deadpool the real name of Wade Wilson in reference to Deathstroke's real name, Slade Wilson. Cable subscription. Deadpool first appeared in 1991 in New Mutants number 98, where he was written as a mercenary who came out of nowhere to attack the hero known as Cable. Don't know who Cable is? A co-creation of Liefeld and writer Louise Simonson, Cable is the son of Cyclops and a clone of Jean Grey, and he's from the future.
What's happening?
Cable made every X-Men comic infinitely more complicated by introducing time travel and alternate timelines. But despite the fact that the two don't actually have much in common, Deadpool and Cable have been linked in comics ever since. Merc with a mouth. Eventually, Deadpool outgrew his traditional villainous roots and became a fan favorite. That's thanks in large part to what is now known as his signature shtick, breaking the fourth wall and addressing readers directly. The in-story explanation is that Deadpool is just nuts. So of course he thinks that he's a fictional character, but fans can't help but love a hyper-violent anti-hero who has just as much to say about the state of superheroes as they do.
When it comes time to licking wounds, there's no place like home. And I share that home with someone you've met, the old blind lady from the laundromat, Al.
God, I miss cocaine.
Her. Fourth wall break inside a fourth wall break. That's like 16 walls.
Ultimate Deadpool. Mainstream Marvel's Deadpool is the guy that everyone knows and loves, but Marvel's handling of the character across different universes and media has been kinda terrible. In an attempt to return Deadpool to his villainous origins, the Ultimate Marvel line of comics saw a Deadpool who was an insane cyborg war veteran with no skin and clear helmet to keep his brains from falling out, hell-bent on destroying all mutants. Not only was Ultimate Deadpool hunting mutants for a TV show, but he was also a shapeshifter. Because it's surprisingly easy to write stupid comics. Fortunately for all the comic book fans out there, the real Deadpool eventually stuck a sword right into the crappy one.
Man, that felt good.
Agent X. For a little while in the early 2000s, Marvel convinced comic readers that they'd killed off Deadpool and brought him back as a new character called Agent X. Why? Because Deadpool's sales numbers were flagging, and dropping an X into a Marvel title has always been a cash machine. It wasn't enough to save Deadpool, and it was also just enough to frustrate dedicated Deadpool fans into dropping the book entirely. Even writer Gail Simone was frustrated with Marvel's editors and abandoned the book after less than a year, leaving other writers to reveal that Agent X wasn't Deadpool at all, but some weird psychic mashup of other characters. Fortunately, Deadpool's return to the spotlight has been pretty successful after that. Speechless. It's really hard to forget that Deadpool's first big screen appearance was a tragedy. In 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, Ryan Reynolds plays a sexy ninja version of the character, capable of deflecting machine gun fire with his swords. But wait, it gets worse. In the course of the film, he dies and is reassembled into a jambalaya of a guy with other mutant powers and no mouth. Yes, the Merc with a mouth didn't have a mouth. Needless to say, fans weren't pleased. Deadpool, the video game. The Deadpool from X-Men Origins Wolverine left such a bad taste in viewers' mouths that the gamers flocked to 2013's Deadpool video game, which was far truer to the character's form.
What a bunch of chumps!
Making repeated references to the game's budget and script, Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and does ridiculous stuff for it to feel like a legitimate entry into the Deadpool canon.
Well, isn't that handy?
Unfortunately, critics gave the game a lukewarm reception. Even still, for lots of fans, it was one step closer to a true Deadpool movie, the one that everyone had been waiting for. Reynolds' redemption. As unhappy as Deadpool's appearance in X-Men Origins made fans, no one was more disappointed than Ryan Reynolds himself.
I remember telling one of the studio execs, I said, "You guys are people are gonna go nuts over this," and he was like, "I know, right?" And I was like, "No, not in a good way.
No, nuts.
No,
People went insane.
The Deadpool character, you can't do this to the Deadpool character." And they just said, it'll work, watch.
In the years that followed, Reynolds became something of a champion for the long-delayed spin-off movie starring the character. In 2012, 20th Century Fox commissioned CGI test footage from visual effects artist Tim Miller. The result was a 2-minute scene starring Reynolds, who provided the voice for an over-the-top crazy violent Deadpool, doing what he does best, cracking jokes and skulls in equal measure. Still, Fox's executives sat on the footage for 2 years until it somehow leaked onto the internet in 2014. Fans went wild, the film was greenlit, and in 2016, Deadpool broke weekend box office records for an R-rated movie, earning $135 million in just 3 days. Eat that, Deathstroke.
I'm alive! I'm alive!
Although most of the Deadpool 2 hype is focused on Cable, the film will also see the debut of another Marvel mutant mercenary, Domino. A longtime ally of Cable and Deadpool, Domino has spent the last couple of decades in comics, shooting, stabbing, and punching her way through any threat, aided by her ability to influence probability in her favor.
I didn't become an X-Man to play it safe. And besides, we have luck on our side. Domino?
But there's a lot more to this femme fatale than a bit of good luck and a full magazine. Here's the untold truth of Domino. Fake out appearance. Any X-Men fan worth their salt knows that clones and doppelgangers are practically a rite of passage if you're trying to run with Xavier's crew. Everyone from Jean Grey to Cable has been subjected to a litany of bizarre, contrived sci-fi tropes over the course of their time with the team. On a surprising note, Domino actually has a pretty straightforward history, albeit with one exception, her first appearance in comics. In the grand scheme of things, Domino appears for the first time in New Mutants issue 98 alongside Deadpool. If you want to get technical though, Domino's real debut is X-Force issue 8. See, it's revealed that the Domino we meet in New Mutants issue 98 is actually the shapeshifter mutant Copycat, aka Vanessa Carlyle. It isn't until several issues later that the real Domino reveals herself. It's appropriate really, there's nothing more quintessentially X-Men than a doppelganger, and Domino covered that base immediately upon her debut. Colossal fling. In the wake of the crossover story Avengers vs. X-Men, Domino finds herself joining Cable's newest spin-off team, X-Force. The team members are now fugitives on the run from the Avengers, and many characters are trying to cope with the fallout of the cataclysmic war in Avengers vs. X-Men. Colossus in particular finds himself grieving the loss of his relationship with Kitty Pryde. Enter Domino, who quickly hits it off with the big guy. The new relationship doesn't last long, leaving the fling as little more than a strange, brief footnote in both of their lives. Original six-pack. Colossus aside, most comics readers are more used to seeing Domino work with the time-traveling mutant Cable. The two have a long history together as best friends, teammates, and sometimes love interests. Cable and Domino first met as members of the mercenary team Six-Pack, formerly known as Wild Pack. Even after the Six-Pack disbanded, Cable and Domino found themselves sticking together. Eventually, Cable joined the New Mutants team, which later became X-Force and got Domino her gig with the group. Birthday gift. One of Domino's most interesting relationships is with Wolverine. Sometimes it's a friendship, sometimes a rivalry, and other times it's even been a full-fledged relationship. One of the highlights of their time together was when Domino bought Wolverine a car for his birthday. It happens in the comic miniseries X-Force Sex and Violence. The story wraps up with Wolverine realizing that Domino secretly kept $37 million that was supposed to go to charity. Right as he's about to get mad, she rolls up outside with a pristine classic Mustang and wishes him a happy birthday. It's a little sleazy and a little sweet, the perfect combination for Domino and Wolverine. As they drive off, Wolverine realizes Domino has stashed their nemesis Razor Fist in the trunk. We guess she can only do so many nice things in a single day. Domino vs. Punisher. There are few people in the Marvel Universe more terrifying than Frank Castle. It's telling that the guy doesn't have a single superpower and still hasn't been taken down by a single superhero who's tried to end his vigilante days. Still, it hasn't stopped people from trying, and one of those people is Domino. In Punisher War Journal, Domino goes after Castle because he's been accused of massacring civilians. Tasked with taking him down by an old acquaintance, Domino is the only person on the team who maintains that Castle is probably innocent. She turns out to be right, and the climax sees the Punisher duking it out with the real criminal behind the crime, Jigsaw. Justice is served, which is great and all, but we don't get to find out who would win between these two warriors in a head-to-head brawl. Family reunion. In the 2003 miniseries Domino, we find out that Domino gained her skills as a mercenary through Project Armageddon, a program designed to create the perfect weapon. She was considered a failure and her mother went on to break her out of the project. After that, her mother disappeared. Years into her career as a mercenary, Domino meets a boy named Lazarus who has the same distinctive eye marking as she does. Lazarus is revealed to be Domino's half-brother, and as it turns out, he's the perfect weapon. Unfortunately, their mom isn't quite so keen on her kids hanging out. With a crew of violent religious zealots, she sets out to put an end to both of them. Domino is forced to shoot her mom to protect Lazarus, making this the worst family reunion in history. Strife's surprise. Perhaps no other X-Men character better embodies the spirit and aesthetic of the 90s than Strife. He's a clone of Cable from the future whose suit is made of giant knives, more or less. Being an X-Men character, there are plenty of alternate universe versions of Strife, and in X-Force Volume 2, Issue 4, Domino actually takes on the identity of one of them. This version of Domino comes to the primary Marvel universe from an alternate future, and joins a new incarnation of the Mutant Liberation Front founded by Cable and former X-Force teammate Shatterstar. Of all the alternate Dominos, this one is the coolest. Not only does the skilled mercenary make great use of Strife's armor, but longtime readers loved seeing Domino embody her best friend's arch-nemesis and evil clone. Ryan Reynolds has always been a fun-loving, good-looking guy, but if you compare his early days in Hollywood to his more recent outing as everyone's favorite foul-mouthed superhero, you might notice that he hasn't always had the beefed-up physique that looks so good in red spandex. How did this former child actor turn his body from lean to mean? Be warned, there aren't any tricks, just time, energy, and dedication. It all began with Blade. Reynolds' big comic book movie breakthrough came over a decade ago when he played vampire hunter Hannibal King in the 2004 film Blade Trinity.
The trainer, before we started the film, wanted to pack on about 10 pounds on me and muscle up.
In the 3 months before filming began, Reynolds was whipped into good enough shape to occupy space in a superhero flick, if not headline one himself. The secret? Long workouts, heavy weights, and zero cardio. Because, believe it or not, before he packed on the muscle to play this role, Ryan Reynolds was kind of a noodle. Every day is a gym day. Want to be a superhero? Prepare not to slack off, ever.
Maximum effort.
Some of the routines Reynolds has to follow border on the sadistic. For instance, when he first had to bulk up for Green Lantern, the actor worked out 7 days a week, 90 minutes a day, and never did the same workout twice for 6 straight months. Even his rest days just involved a less intense type of exercise like Pilates. But don't worry, for those of us who aren't putting our abs on display for an audience of millions, 20 minutes of moderate exercise daily and 3 gym sessions per week will be more than adequate to keep you fit. He eats all of the food. When it comes to playing Deadpool, the first time Reynolds suited up wasn't in his own standalone film. It was in 2009's X-Men Origins Wolverine, a regrettable outing that would eventually become the butt of Deadpool's best marketing jokes.
But the movie, that was a career low for me. You understand.
But back then, the actor wasn't going to pass up on the chance to bring Wade Wilson to life on screen, and he had to bulk up fast, which meant consuming enormous amounts of food. Reynolds said that he had to eat live children in order to put on so much muscle in so little time. But he was kidding, of course. Probably. He focuses on nutrition. The theme of any good superhero diet? Protein, protein, and protein. And if you're Ryan Reynolds, plenty of carbs too. The actor says, "I really don't believe in that no-carb stuff. It's probably not good for you, and makes you pretty cranky. No amount of exercise will make up for poor nutrition. Eating the right foods in the right amounts and at the right times, if you're being really intense about it, is key to building a physique like this one." That said, even superheroes get the occasional cheat day to indulge in some not-so-healthy foods like...
It's a chimichanga.
But actually, Reynolds prefers to gorge on pizza when he doesn't have to look ripped on screen. He keeps it tight. Ryan Reynolds might shed some muscle or change up his workout between superhero flicks, but he's basically been in battle-ready shape for the past 15 years, which makes it easy to ramp things back up when he needs to slide into a spandex suit. According to his longtime trainer Bobby Strom, for action films he was 200 pounds and 8% body fat. For rom-coms, he's about 180 and 11% body fat. But even then, Reynolds is a gym regular, says Strom. When he does a comedy, he probably goes to the gym to do cable work every other day. He sets challenging goals. Reynolds has said that getting in shape for movie roles left him astonished at what could be achieved with a solid workout regimen, and now he keeps himself motivated by giving himself new goals to strive for. Of course, for someone as fit as Reynolds, those goals have to be pretty intense. Among the items already crossed off his bucket list is running the New York City Marathon in under 4 hours. Next up, he wants to climb Machu Picchu. He has fun with it. Ultimately, Ryan Reynolds approaches fitness the same way he approaches, well, everything, by not taking himself too seriously. Sometimes that means finding motivation in unusual places, like a friendly rivalry with his Deadpool 2 co-star Josh Brolin, who got even more muscled up than Reynolds to play the character Cable. But the actor also knows his limits, and isn't afraid to point out when another superhero star has surpassed him in physical achievement. When asked how his own regimen stacked up against Hugh Jackman's, who would wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning in order to eat enough to fuel his Wolverine workouts, Reynolds said, "Hugh Jackman has a dedication to his craft that I'm afraid I don't share. If I'm up at 2 in the morning, it's because something has gone terribly wrong." That laid-back attitude keeps the actor sane, and it doesn't hurt that it's totally in character.
Superhero landing! Yeah, that's really hard on your knees.
Totally impractical. They all do it.
Zazie Beetz is far from a household name, but her role in the upcoming Deadpool sequel might just change all that. In the scant 5 years that Beetz's IMDb profile has been active, she's racked up a respectable number of credits. Here's why Domino from Deadpool 2 looks so familiar. Wolves. Zazie started her career like most other up-and-coming actors in their mid-20s, by playing high school students. Wolves is the age-old urban tale of a young man named Anthony, who uses his prowess on the basketball court to escape a far more complicated home life. Beetz is Victoria, Lee's love interest, whose arc revolves around her desperate desire to know all the parts of him that he keeps hidden. Shot during the summer of 2015, Wolves is the project that let Beetz give up her day job and pursue acting full-time. The film took a one-way ticket to Highbrow Town by premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival before being picked up for distribution by IFC Films. Margot vs. Lily. In 2016, Nike decided that a cute, diverse, and surprisingly well-made web series was the best way to promote their workout clothes, and Margot vs. Lily was the result. As part of the Better For It women's campaign, this was Nike's first scripted show, and it got a nice amount of positive buzz in part because the commercial elements were integrated well into the narrative.
Allie! I think I might be jacked! Arms so sore, arms like Thor.
Wow. I've never seen you like this in the morning.
Beetz plays Allie, best friend and roommate to Margot, a snarky millennial with a chip on her shoulder who lives and plots in the shadow of her internet-famous fitness guru sister Lily. Easy. This Netflix original lacks the buzz or prestige of some of their other high-profile shows like Stranger Things or House of Cards, but Easy does have that rambling indie quality that seems to fit nicely within Beetz's filmography. This sexy ensemble drama follows a chain of interlinking friends navigating the ups and downs of their intimate relationships. Beetz plays Noelle, a sweet and supportive stoner who's dating an amateur brewer named Jeff, played by Dave Franco, who has ambitions of starting an illegal brewery with his more conservative brother.
Just imagine you were pregnant and I didn't tell you about any of this. What would you do? What would you do?
I would freak out.
Exactly.
Atlanta. Much ink has been spilled about the groundbreaking Atlanta, Donald Glover's Emmy-winning M.C. Escher painting of an urban drama. Beetz plays Van, a young mother in love with Glover's Ern, the father of her daughter, who it turns she's completely enamored with and totally frustrated by due to his underachieving, spacey, charismatic brilliance.
Oh, you're doing that weird sad boy face you get sometimes.
That's just my face.
This role is tailor-made to make use of all that Beetz has to offer as an actor, and is likely the reason she was on the Deadpool creative team's radar to begin with. Geostorm. Even though her role is small, 2017's Geostorm marks Beetz's first appearance in a high-profile film. She plays Dana, a cybersecurity analyst and friend to Max, played by Jim Sturgis. The disaster flick was unfortunately reamed by critics, but Beetz was still able to inject some expositional technobabble and moments of levity opposite Sturgis. And when she appears in Deadpool 2, it won't be her first time at the blockbuster rodeo. The Boss. If you can make it through this squirmy January 2018 dramatization of a real-life workplace harassment, you'll see Beetz go from an efficient and helpful professional to confused, then alarmed, then panicked as her boss proceeds to violate her space completely. This wasn't just another acting job. It's a PSA executive produced by Beetz co-star David Schwimmer. It's among a series of short films released online designed to raise awareness about RAINN, the nation's largest anti-sexual violence organization. Deadpool 2. Months before anyone got to see her in action as Domino, Beats was part of the vast media machine surrounding the Deadpool sequel. Her casting was announced via Ryan Reynolds' Twitter with a character poster, and her arrival quickly generated a ton of buzz. In the world of comics, Domino, aka Nina Thurman, debuted in the pages of X-Force number 8 in 1992. Her power to affect the probability of any event within her line of sight is the result of a government experiment. She's joined various mercenary bands and also rolled solo throughout her history. Beats may seem an odd choice to play the pistol-packing, motorcycle-revving mercenary mutant, but her fresh take might be just what the role needs.
Decapitations, tranquilizer darts, and sorts of sharing a beer. Deadpool and Wolverine's feelings about each other are hard to describe.
Time to make the chimichangas.
Wolverine and Deadpool had their first team-up years before Wade Wilson even began his career as a costumed mercenary. In Deadpool Nerdy 30, a teenage Wade accidentally gets handcuffed to Wolverine when Logan crashes his high school prom while fighting Hydra agents. Although Logan initially protects Wade from getting shot, the Merc in waiting proves he's already got some skills when he uses an electric guitar and cymbal to take out some Hydra goons and shield Wolverine from their bullets. Impressed, Wolverine advises Wade to take that special talent within him and be the best at that, you know? It's an early sign of something that's come to define their relationship, that Logan recognizes there's something admirable about Wade Wilson. While Wolverine and the X-Men first battled Deadpool and the Brother of Evil Mutants in the Toys R Us promotional comic, X-Men Premium Edition Issue 1, Logan officially takes on the Merc with a mouth in Wolverine Issue 88. Their reunion starts off with a bang, as Logan finds the Merc with a mouth on the prowl for his ex-girlfriend Vanessa Carsile and her new boyfriend, Kane. Unlike in the movies, the comic book Vanessa is a shape-shifting mercenary called Copycat. Not down with Wade's plan, Wolverine takes Deadpool on, but gets stabbed in the back with Wade's twin swords. Wolverine recovers and later stops Deadpool from killing Kane and Copycat. However, Wade escapes by tossing a grenade at Logan. Throughout the adventure, Wolverine fails to recognize Deadpool as the same young man he'd fought with against Hydra years earlier. This may be because Logan forgot Wade's scent, or it might be because Deadpool Nerdy 30 was published 27 years after Wolverine issue 88. The X-Man and the Mouthy Merc cross paths again in Wolverine Annual 1995. This time, Wolverine's friend Maverick asked Logan to help him save Wade Wilson from a shadow organization that kidnapped Deadpool to see if his healing factor can create a cure for the mutant-killing legacy virus. Logan initially refuses, seeing Deadpool as a stone killer, but comes around after Maverick points out the scientists are torturing Wade just like the Weapon X program abused them. The two save Deadpool, and Wade actually helps Maverick leave the facility after learning Maverick is infected with the legacy virus. Logan and Maverick lose track of Wade after the three leap down a waterfall. But Wolverine decides Deadpool ain't a monster, and that he'd likely try helping toward a cure in his own way. Logan's hunch proves right, and Deadpool sends blood and cell samples to the X-Mansion for analysis. While no cure is found, it's the first time since meeting Deadpool in costume that Logan acknowledges Wade ain't all bad. Logan may have started seeing something special about Deadpool, but that doesn't mean they get along right away. In Deadpool issue 27, Wade drives Logan into one of his famous berserker rages after he uses Ken's Shoryuken move from Street Fighter and sucker punches Wolverine's friend Kitty Pryde. Logan attacks, but is brought back to lucidity by Wade's incessant bantering. Turns out Wade only started this meaningless super battle after his psychiatrist Dr. Bong told him it would help him deal with his recent hallucinations. Unfortunately, while shooting his hallucinations, Deadpool accidentally hits Logan's acquaintance Black Crane, making Wolverine accuse Wade of having no honor or remorse. Yet Logan also sympathizes with Wilson, noting he'd once been like him. Thanks to Logan encouraging him to deal with his past, as well as Dr. Bong helping him understand what his visions represent, Wade is able to make the hallucinations disappear and recall his wife, Mercedes Wilson. Thus, Logan plays a key role in helping Deadpool's memory and mental health, even if their encounter does end with Wolverine stabbing Deadpool with all of his claws. Logan's actually happy to find Wade trying to kill Kitty Pryde's favorite horror author Duncan Vess in Wolverine Annual 99, mostly because he can get back at Deadpool for the Shoryuken incident. As they fight, they run into a werewolf called Lycus, who also has a beef with Vess. Turns out Vess is secretly a werewolf himself. Wolverine ropes Deadpool into keeping Vess safe, but Wade ignores Logan's wishes. Luckily, Logan resurfaces before Deadpool can fulfill his contract, fending off both Lycus and the people who hired Deadpool. A council of werewolves peeved at Vess for abandoning their kind and writing about them in his books. Deadpool then tries to square things with Wolverine, and after punching Wade in the face, Logan declares all feuds between them are settled. The issue marks a turning point in the characters' relationship. While Deadpool claims he and Wolverine aren't friends when he tries to kill Vess, Logan seems keen on making amends by the story's end, even inviting a dazed Wade for a beer after the face punch. The catch is that the beer's only for Logan, and Wade's paying. Despite their improving relationship, Logan becomes Deadpool's target in Wolverine issue 154 and 155, along with a team of fellow mercenaries called the Scourge. Logan tries to get Wade to reconsider, but Deadpool fights Wolverine anyway, citing money woes, and downs Logan with a ton of potent tranquilizer darts. We later learn Deadpool's employer, an evil organization called the Watchtower, has offered to use Logan's healing factor to treat the injuries of Wade's friend, Teresa Cassidy, and Siren and restore her powers. Surprisingly, Wolverine doesn't hold this against Wade, deciding, "You can't change what you are." Their fight ends when Siren rises from her tank, fully healed. Finally understanding Wade's true intentions, Wolverine lets Deadpool leave with Siren while he continues pursuing Watchtower. The whole ordeal is proof that Logan and Wade's dynamic is changing. Rather than looking to start a fight with Deadpool, Logan tries to talk him down. Wade, meanwhile, again gets agitated when someone calls Logan his friend, but only out of guilt for kidnapping Wolverine. Deadpool later gets recruited into a new Weapon X program after its scientists temporarily fix his scarred face. However, he later turns on the organization after fellow member Sabretooth kills Wade's girlfriend, Copycat. Weapon X retaliates by turning Wade's body to mush, leaving only a hand which they send to Wolverine as a warning. Logan brings Wade's hand to the Merc's funeral in Deadpool issue 61, placing it in a casket with Deadpool's costume, the only two things left of him. Fortunately, Wade regenerates from the hand at the end of the issue, though he probably would have preferred it if Logan had kept the hand somewhere above ground. Wade returns a favor years later in Death of Wolverine, Deadpool and Captain America issue 1, when he and Steve Rogers destroy Logan's remains so evil parties can't clone him. Wade almost clones Wolverine himself for benevolent purposes, but decides to imitate Logan instead in Wolverine's issue 13 to hilarious results. Seeing as Wade's tenure as Wolverine ends with him accidentally stabbing himself in the head, it's probably for the best that Logan later comes back to life and resumes his duties. Between Deadpool shooting Wolverine in the back in Cable and Deadpool issue 9, Logan slicing Wade's head off over a misunderstanding in Cable and Deadpool issue 43, and a tense rooftop showdown in Marvel Team-Up issue 25, it's safe to say the two characters' bond sours somewhat after Wade's resurrection. This escalates in Wolverine Origins issue 20 to 25, when Logan again becomes the target of a contract Wade's pursuing. After enduring a lot of hits, stabs, explosions, and gunshot wounds, Wolverine is taken to Deadpool's safe house and chained above a pool in which Wade intends to drown him. Logan stalls Deadpool, however, with enough verbal jabs to aggravate the normally jovial Merc. Wolverine then reveals an even bigger con. He had the hit placed on himself, knowing Wade's attempts to kill him would lure Logan's son Darkin out into the open.
You're so dark! You sure you're not from the DC universe?
The showdown reveals that whatever respect the two have for each other is also accompanied by a lot of resentment. Deadpool flat out states that killing Wolverine is something he's envisioned doing for some time, partly due to his frustration of being compared to him. He even expresses jealousy toward Logan, since despite their mutual pasts as killers, the X-Men have no problem making Wolverine a member, yet refuse to let Deadpool join. Wade finally gets to try out for the X-Men in Deadpool issue 6, but botches his audition when he tries to kill Ellis Kincaid, the father of X-Men member Mercury. It's Wolverine who realizes it's all part of Wade's elaborate plan to restore the X-Men's reputation by having them save Kincaid, who's falsely accused them of holding Mercury against her will. While Deadpool's plan succeeds, his chaotic nature costs him a place on the team. Still, Logan recruits Wade for his own team, X-Force. Friction forms, however, when Deadpool objects to their teammate Phantom X killing a child version of Apocalypse, and Logan nearly fires Wade. Wade later loses his healing factor in Deadpool issue 53, leading to Logan, whose own healing gifts make him borderline unkillable, asking Wade what it feels like to be alive again. Despite their many issues, Wolverine keeps Deadpool on the team, and the two serve on X-Force together until the team disbands. After mutant kind sets up its own nation on the living island Krakoa, Deadpool, recently crowned Staten Island's Monster King, gets displeased he's never been invited and hitches a ride inside the gelatinous body of the mutant Gel-B in Deadpool issue 6. The X-Men learn about this and agree to let Deadpool visit, but only through the proper channels. Before Wade goes, Rogue hands him a flower unique to the island, a gesture that she and Wolverine explain is a token of the X-Men's friendship. It's a major moment, as not only does Logan finally state he considers Deadpool a friend, but implies the X-Men feel the same.
You have a good heart. It belongs here where it can grow.
Deadpool later loses his Staten Island royalty and decides he wants to live on Krakoa. After various foiled attempts to break in again, he tries convincing Wolverine directly by botching a deal Logan has been investigating between the AI known as Danger and the nefarious X-Desk in Wolverine issue 20. The two confront Danger, learning the X-Desk had promised to return her cybernetic daughter under the condition she create an army of mechanized X-Men dupes for them. After Deadpool saves Wolverine from Danger, Logan offers Deadpool the chance to live on Krakoa as part of the latest incarnation of X-Force.
I just want to say how proud I am of this team. You know, you guys look amazing.
Wolverine and Deadpool are far too popular to remain confined to the comics page, so it only makes sense they'd run into each other in animation. In 2009's Hulk vs. Wolverine, Logan is summoned by Department H to stop the Hulk's rampage, but finds his tussle with the Jade Giant interrupted when Deadpool shoots both of them with tranquilizer darts. Wolverine wakes up chained to a wall in Weapon X headquarters, where he learns he's being used as bait so the program can capture and brainwash the Hulk. Wade shoots Wolverine in the head but gets hit by the ricochet. Naturally, Deadpool heals, but his later attempts to take down Banner and Logan don't go too well, and Wolverine slices his arm off. After Banner transforms into the Hulk, Logan chucks Wade's body at the rampaging monster. While Wade often talks to Logan like he's an old buddy, he makes his feelings toward Wolverine quite clear, telling him, "We all hate you." It's fairly consistent with Deadpool's portrayal in his earlier comics, but the humor slightly ramped up. Wolverine and Deadpool have it pretty complicated in live action. In X-Men Origins Wolverine, the two start as teammates working under William Stryker, where Wade's constant wisecracks annoy Logan. Wolverine later receives word that Wade's been killed. However, Wade's actually been transformed into Weapon XI, aka Weapon 11. Armed with the power of many mutants, XI faces off against Wolverine and Sabretooth, leading to Logan decapitating Wade and seemingly killing him. Thanks to time travel shenanigans though, Wade's time as Stryker's operative is wiped from history when he reappears in the Deadpool solo movies. Wade does know of Logan, however, or at least of Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, as he hilariously wears a paper cutout of the actor's face from a People magazine cover. In Deadpool 2, Wade gets ticked off by the movie Logan, which he feels has stolen his thunder by having an R rating and killing off its star.
Well, guess what, Wolvie? I'm dying in this one too.
Wade's clearly resolved his jealousy issues when the two do encounter each other after Deadpool travels back to the original X-Men movie timeline and helps out Logan by shooting his Weapon XI self in the head. And their rivalry seems to have cooled in the real world as well. After years of engaging in a friendly feud, Jackman finally agreed to a request made by Deadpool actor Ryan Reynolds.
Hey Hugh, you want to play Wolverine one more time?
Yeah, sure, Ryan.
The announcement, which also sees both Deadpool and Wolverine joining the MCU, promises to take Logan and the Merc with a mouth to exciting new places as we watch their complex relationship continue to evolve.